Hello, everybody. All right, so it looks like we have some people in here already, so we'll try to look to get right into things here. Welcome to the Mikestand. Hope everybody's had a good weekend this weekend. Um, so let's see. So let's get right into what we're going to. Okay, let me first. I'll get some of the prelims out of the way here. If you haven't already, if you can like and share the stream, see if we can get some more friendly people in here to engage. That'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions. We'll try to answer the questions to the best. I'll try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. Also, feel free to subscribe. That way, you can be notified when we're on. Um, so that, no, I guess we'll wait a few minutes to give people a chance to come back in here. I was gonna get started, but apparently people just went right away. So okay, well, two watching now. So alrighty then. So let's see now. All right. So here's what's on tap for tonight. Then, well, I guess we will get started because looks like we have a couple people in here. Um, so we're gonna go over a couple articles from Bleeding Fool. Hey, Jr. What's your favorite square of toilet paper? Don't have a particular favorite. I just grab the toilet paper and just use it to use it. Anyway, so all right. So, anyways, I'm gonna go ahead and actually tonight we pick some stories out from Bleeding Fool. Um, Normally we just do Bleeding Fool for the Indie Comic Showcase, but tonight we're gonna look over a couple articles from there. One from Avi Green, examining where some critics have said that South Park is actually part of the woke problem. Um, so we'll look at that. Also, former cop Jason Auerbach apparently had decided to do a comic in which he made the heroes villains and vice versa. So those are going to be the two articles we're going to look at tonight. Also, we're going to, of course, be talking. We're going to do Wrestling Wrap-Up. WWE had Crown Jewel event this weekend. We'll go over that result. Impact Wrestling, of course, broadcast their Turning Point event from England, which was recorded a week earlier, but they um, did it on Impact Plus on this past Saturday. We'll get caught up on all the AEW, Impact news, and what have you. Plus, we'll have at the end of the show, of course, toward the end of the show, we'll have this day in each history. So, with all that being said, why don't we go ahead and get started with our with the show here? The first article we're going to look at is the South Park one. All right. So, anyways, let's get into this. All right. So, why some critics say South Park is part of the woke problem? Article by Avi Green published earlier today. So, let's get into this. South Park recently had gotten some headlines over, into the Pandaverse special they were doing. So, a writer at the Daily Caller makes the argument that Trey Parker and Matt Stone's long running cartoon series, South Park, isn't a very good influence and is more a problem than an avail. All right. Um, and this is him getting into the article he's covering here. No. He is. All right, so the 45-minute special, Enter the Panderverse, um, tore into Disney's ham-handed diversity casting and mad dash for remakes. The title references the Disney-owned Marvel quote-unquote multiverse of alternate dimensions, a quote-unquote lazy way to interlink endless spin-offs that pander to various ethnic groups. Mm-hmm. Let's see. Creators Matt Stone and Trey Parker mocked Disney for incorrectly assuming this approach would appeal to broader audiences. But despite the evident failure, remaining unable to turn away from such a quote lame and gay unquote model in a hilarious critique of forced diversity, Stan, Kyle, Kenny, and Cartman are replaced by quote unquote diverse women from an alternate universe where everyone quote complains about the patriarchy unquote. Okay, now this is from now Avi is obviously referencing the Daily Caller article here in this segment here, obviously. Um, yeah, so as we continue on here, um, if you haven't already, if you can like and share this stream, see if we can get some more friendly people in here to engage. Also, anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions, and I'll try to answer them to the best of my ability. So, clips from the episode quickly went viral over the weekend, with conservatives cheering a powerful cultural icon seemingly taking their side. Some took it as a sign that the tide of the culture war was beginning to turn. Even Elon Musk voiced his support. But this is not the victory that many believe it to be. Yeah, I think in some respects, I don't know if South Park does have any kind of political leaning, but they often talk about how South Park will actually take shots at both sides. Okay, they're one of those programs that they'll take just as many shots at the conservative side that they do as the liberal. So no one is spared, but neither is anyone truly demonized. Rather, episodes often come together with a didactic lecture from one of the boys. Everything is fine in moderation, and we should all take a humble skepticism to our own most cherished beliefs. Extremes are always morally equivalent. For decades, this was a powerful message in an eminently moderate country like America. When the show first aired, Americans could still agree on the basic foundation of our common life, and extremists on all sides were largely relegated to the fringe. But we no longer live in this country. One side has fully embraced the extremists in their ranks and now works symbiotically to brand anyone that opposes them, the average South Park viewer of 10 years ago, as the true extremist threat. Yet Stone and Parker remain blind or ignorant, perhaps willfully so, to this trend over the past 10 years. As a result, South Park has lost its once exemplary moral clarity. Recent seasons have increasingly focused on the America First movement and the moral panic over political correctness. The juxtaposition always leads back to the same message. Both sides feed off each other, and in the end, partisans in each camp are just plain stupid. Hmm. Anyway, let's see now. We continue on here. But these platitudes reflect a fundamental misunderstanding of the current moment. One side stands for civilizational ruin, the destruction of 2,000 years of accumulated knowledge and morality, and the end of America as we know it. The other stands in the breach, stemming the tide of imminent collapse and holding out hope for return to the normalcy that Parker and Stone ostensibly advocate for. There can be no moral equivalence here. Quote unquote Panderverse shows that even with all the progressive left's escalatory aggression under the Biden administration, Parker and Stone's understanding has failed to evolve. In the new special, it's eventually revealed that Disney has only been producing more diverse spin offs as a knee jerk reaction to Cartman, who sent quote unquote racist hate mail after the company's earliest foray into racial pandering. Cartman's big epiphany is that wokeness and anti wokeness are morally equivalent, feeding off each other and turning both camps equally stupid. Sure, Disney's diverse remakes are lazy, but, quote, railing about woke stuff all the time is pretty lazy too, unquote. Yet Cartman's revelation could not be farther from the truth. Wokeness is a death force. Everyone and everything must submit to its vision. It aims to make us accept that America is a fundamentally racist country, that Christianity and capitalism uphold a racist system, and that bourgeois sensibilities like perseverance, rationality, and respect for authority are mere veils for white supremacy. All through seemingly harmless platitudes like quote diversity is our strength unquote. Only once we accept these claims will the true believers have the power to remake society anew. This sounds like an article. I might do this article on this. Have this article ready for Sunday's panel to discuss, because this sounds like something that could be a worthy discussion to be had. All right. So, what's your favorite race of diversity? I don't have one, because I think the whole concept of of hiring based on race is stupid. It should come down to you know whether or not you fit the role, or you can do the work. Shouldn't you shouldn't be made to you shouldn't be forced to hire somebody just because they check a box or anything like that. All right. So, anyways, let's continue. Continue on here. Well, there were occasions in which South Park did regrettably succumb to PC. calling a time when the studio refused to include any Muhammad drawings at the time of the Danish Muhammad cartoon riots um, in the specific episodes proper. Making matters worse is that just a year ago, HBO wouldn't broadcast such episodes anymore, no matter how they were originally prepared. And if South Park and its creators have failed to keep up with the times and are less likely to show any courage to confront challenging issues, that only makes clear what severe damage wokeness has wrought in the long run. On the other hand, the Federalist seems to have a more favorable view of the series and episode, although the following could be surely disputed. So this part from the Federalist, which is the Daily Caller, I think, tends to be a little left leaning a little bit. So Federalist is a little right leaning. So just so furthermore, the episode, this is from the Federalist, makes the important point that diversity in itself is not a bad thing. Well crafted plots and characters work with diverse and non diverse characters alike. One character mentions Miles Morales from Spider Man in Into the Spider Verse as an example of this. This only degenerates into pandering when poorly developed yet diverse characters are shoehorned into an idiotic storyline as itself consciously demonstrated in, quote, South Park joining the Pandaverse, unquote. Going back to Avi here. Considering Morales may have been an early example of pandering for PC diversity's sake when first introduced by Brian Bendis um, over a dozen years ago, I'm not sure you can uphold the example so well when the cartoon film itself apparently builds off some of the most trivial concepts to come out of Marvel in the past decade that did build mostly on wokeism. And though Peter Parker survived as a character, which is probably more than can be said of his marriage to Mary Jane Watson in the story, the ensuing wokeness hurt him and the Spidey legacy as a creation. Because a short time after Morales was introduced in the Ultimate line, and the alternate Peter was sent to the grave there, in parentheses there, he was shoehorned into the flagship 616 universe proper, effectively rendering whatever impact Morales might have had meaningless. And that certainly makes an apt description of the quality of Marvel's writing for years on end now. I guess this is going back to the, what I notice is when we hit these parts right here where you got the lines above the statements here, this basically from the article that Avi is referencing, or whoever the writer is. In this case, it's Avi. So, um, anyways, of course, there's a reason the episode specifically targets Disney, which has spent the last decade burning through its beloved franchises and is now out of material. The company has been addicted to producing sequels, reboots, spin offs, and every other possible derivative. Um, this was taken up a notch when it launched its streaming channel, Disney Plus, and it all went well until it didn't. Yeah, I don't think, like, another example of that is, of course, the Proud Family, Louder and Prouder. That one hasn't really been hitting a high note with a lot of people either. So, Once popular IPs such as Star Wars, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and even the Disney princesses are now routinely derided upon arrival and collectively ignored. Already, in quotes here, the Marvels, one of the most expensive Marvel movies ever made, is set for a terrible opening weekend. Yeah, we've been hearing a lot about. I know that I've heard that. I know that Yellow Flash been covering this. A few people have kind of covered this. That the Marvels is not planning on, and the live action quote unquote Snow White has been delayed for a year for the bad press it has received. Instead of prioritizing a good story and relatable characters, as it used to do, filmmakers at Disney now aggressively push diverse characters and leftist narratives above all else. Basically, targeting less than 50% of your audience, more like a 25 to 30% of your audience, or if that, you know, you know, and people just not gonna go for it. As a rule, its protagonists will always be women, LGBT, or non white people, or all three. Its antagonists will usually be straight white males, and the plot will usually involve casting aside old characters to clear the way for the new girl boss. See Star Wars, Indiana Jones, Phase 4 and 5 of the MCU, and live action Little Mermaid. All right. So continuing on here. And let me see. Right on time there. All right. Of course, anyone who happens to notice this will be labeled a quote unquote racist, sexist bigot by the cultural gatekeepers, and then emboldens Disney and others to create ever more lousy woke content. And just as, quote, there is a great deal of ruin in a nation, unquote, there is a great deal of ruin in entertainment behemoths like Disney, which means that fans will be subjected to so much more of this garbage in the years to come, as the episode's hopeful resolution suggests. The fact that it's possible to have a diverse cast without being woke makes it relatively easy for companies like Disney to return to a place of sanity and stop alienating their fans. Instead of doubling down on what they're currently doing, in parentheses here, presumably as a response to criticism and hate mail from obsessed fans, in parentheses, they can start creating quality programming again that allows diverse characters to be actual characters, not tokens. Now coming back to Avi here, Avi's commentary here. Even so, the columnist would do well to consider what went on back at the comics division of Marvel in the past decade, is what some of their movie adaptations are building upon, and is very tasteless and pointless in hindsight. It may be possible to draw from certain well springs that are that are contaminated and come up with something more palatable. But if we take adaptations of modern Marvel as an example, it just doesn't excuse that the sources they're drawing from are very poor, and that can cast quite a pall over these um, modern film adaptations, which are becoming increasingly worthless this very moment. There's surely a lot of much older takes on the Marvel creations up to the turn of the century that make far more palatable source material, yet modern standards have led to a situation where only what's come after the mid 2000s is considered worth adapting. And that's just not a good way to develop screenplays if they're going to resort to such a cheap method. Hmm. As for South Park, if the producers no longer have what it takes to lampoon where the USA's been going with PC, then maybe it's time to retire the cartoon series already. It's been going for over a quarter century now. That's 25 years, almost as long as The Simpsons has. Well, The Simpsons has been more like 35 years or so, because they started back in 87, 88, around there. Um, Hardly much too long at that to boot. Um, and much like The Simpsons has clearly lost any edge it once maintained, so it'd surely be for the best if both TV cartoon series would be put out to pasture and save everyone a lot of time. Yeah, that can be the trick. That can be the tricky thing about cartoons, right there. Though, trying to have it's one thing to have like the shorts, like the classic shorts, the classic golden age shorts that we see, like the Warner Brothers shorts, MGM shorts, Paramount shorts. A lot of those classic shorts, they're timeless because they don't pander. They just put something entertaining out there. But problem with having a long running cartoon like The Simpsons, like in this case, The Simpsons and South Park are both adult cartoons. They're specifically aimed at adults. They utilize adult material, adult humor. Okay. Problem with that is eventually you run out. I mean, you know, Bart, for crying out loud, is still 10 years old. He's been 10 years old for like 35 years. Almost long. Well, Ash from Pokemon's been 20 for 10 for like 25 years. I mean, and I know the South. I never really watched South Park too much. Um, but the South Park series itself went on 25. Those kids are what, like supposedly like what, 9, 10 years old, 10, 11, 12 years old, maybe. Um, is that how long they've been on? 10, 11, 25 years. Um, anyway, so now we're gonna get ready to move on to the next article here. This one's a bit of an interesting one here. It is also by Avi Green. Former cop creates comic where heroes are villains and vice versa. All right, so Staten Island Advance wrote about a former police officer who's creating a comic that reportedly uses a twist. It seems more like an excuse to veer into making heroes more like villains. This is from the article now. Staten Island native and retired NYPD Sergeant Jason Auerbach's lifelong dream is now on the verge of reality. Auerbach is behind, quote unquote, The Villains, a superhero comedy adventure that ingeniously reimagines the conventional superhero narrative. Originally written as a film script and eventually adapted in 2020 into a short film featuring renowned actors Eric Roberts, Auerbach created quote unquote the villains as a vibrant and imaginative tribute to the genre that has shaped his creative spirit. He's currently in the process of turning the villains into a comic book. Here are some of the storyboard sketches of that. This continuing on from the art with the article as well. The villains, quote, the villains was written out of my love for the comic book superhero genre and fun popcorn films like Big Trouble in Little China and Zombieland, said Auerbach. And unquote. Unquote. So, quote, as a kid, Marvel Comics helped me develop an insatiable love of reading and writing that would culminate in a fun story about villains becoming heroes by stopping a team of villainous superheroes. Unquote. The heart of quote unquote the villains revolves around an unusual twist, a group of superheroes who harbor secret ambitions for world domination unexpectedly unite an eccentric villain with an insecure young hero. This unlikely partnership is further joined by a duo of cunning crime lords. Together, the four form a unique alliance to confront a shared adversary. In the process, redefines their own roles, ultimately challenging the very concept of heroism. So now back to Avi here. Now back to Avi's commentary here. This may be a comedy tale, but that part about challenging heroism is what troubles me, mainly because there's not much of it to be found in today's entertainment horizon. In an era where politics trump entertainment value, I don't know if that was pun intended or not, but anyways, why now? Why? Now that I think of it, the premise sounds vaguely similar to a comic Mark Waid produced in the late 2000s called Irredeemable, about a hero turned villain, and there may have been a follow up where a villain seemingly turned hero. But if that's supposed to alleviate concerns, forget it. It's just a cheap way of disguising how a grating theme of a hero going villain is the emphasis. And then look how this new would be comedy bears the title The Villains, quote unquote. That's hardly a great way to promote it either. Real shame a guy who worked in police seems to think that this makes a great premise because, as far as I'm concerned, it's simply not. So, wow, this was actually a pretty quick article for Avi. Avi's usually known for some deep diving articles. This one, though, was more of a quickie. So, with that, done with the articles now. So we're gonna get to the wrestling wrap up here, as it were. And of course, we're gonna first off go and talk about, of course, the WWE. As WWE had there's some news coming out of WWE. Let's see now. Of course, they did have Crown Jewel this past weekend. Of course, Sami Zayn defeated JD McDonnell on the pre-show. Um, but then the rest of the results, the show itself opened up with Seth Rollins retaining the WWE World Heavyweight title over Drew McIntyre, and it's been announced that Now, according to WrestleMania earlier today, Drew McIntyre may be on the verge of inking a deal with the WWE, of re-upping his contract with WWE. Now, it's only speculation, only a rumor, so take it for what it's worth. But because Drew McIntyre is going to be another one of those free agents who's going to be looked at quite a bit, much like Will Ospreay and MJF. So, Rhea Ripley retained the WWE Women's World Title in a fatal 5-way over Nia Jax, Raquel Rodriguez, Shayna Baszler, and Zoe Stark. Solo Sikoa defeated John Cena in what some may be calling John Cena's last match. But people aren't completely sure because with Survivor Series coming up in a few weeks and the possibility of some War Games action going on, people are wondering if Cena will in fact retire or stick around a little longer. Help out with that. The one title change that happened at Crown Jewel, Logan Paul defeated Rey Mysterio Jr. for the WWE United States Heavyweight title. Now, in this match, one of the highlights of this match was, in essence, Logan Paul actually saving Rey from a near catastrophic injury, as Rey went for a springboard moonsault and was on the verge of driving himself head first in the mat, and Logan Paul caught him, kept him from landing awkwardly in a way that would have seriously hurt him. But and the thing is, and there's talk now that even though Logan Paul, a lot of people have been critical of, okay, so why did they put a title on Logan Paul when he's only had 8 matches, and he's a part-timer? Well, it's been indicated that he's going to still be sticking around, as again, with Roman Reigns taking the rest of the year off, they're going to need all the star power they get for the remainder of the year here. So, Io Sky retained the WWE Women's title over Bianca Belair, as now Rhea Ripley is the WWE Women's World title. So for the WWE Women's title, Io Sky, and she got some help. She got some help from the returning Kairi Sane, who's now back in the WWE. There has been some talk that the two of them, along with Asuka and possibly another Japanese female wrestler, may be forming a new faction, as Sky might be drifting a little bit more away from Damage Control and just venturing out on her own. Cody Rhodes defeated Damian Priest, and in the main event for the WWE title and the Universal title, Roman Reigns retained over LA Knight, much to the disappointment of a lot of fans out there who feel that they should have put the title on him, especially if Roman's not going to be around the rest of the year. So that's all the WWE news. Let's see. AEW over the weekend, of course, on Collision, as there's been more setup for, of course, Full Gear in a little under 2 weeks, on another couple weeks here. On this past Saturday's Collision, Swerve Strickland defeated AR Fox, as AR Fox was looking to try to gain some revenge from being unceremoniously tossed out of Swerve Strickland's camp. In just under a minute and a half, the Kingdom tandem of Mike Bennett and Matt Taven defeated the Crucible duo of Brooks and Nash and Jameson McGregor. Darby Allin defeated defeated Lance Archer, who had, of course, Jake Roberts in his corner. So the Billy Gunn and the Acclaimed were celebrating 69 days as AEW World Trios Champion. A lot of gay humor here, the more figurative sense. Talking about scissors me, daddy ass. But after, as they were trying to celebrate, Dalton Castle and the boys came out to interrupt the smashing a trophy of the 69 days and leading into a AEW World Trios titles defense in which Billy Gunn and the Acclaimed retained. Mark Briscoe teamed with Naturally Limitless of Limitless Keith Lee and the Natural Dustin Rhodes to defeat the three-man team of Kip Sabian, the Workhorsemen of Anthony Henry and JD Drake. Willow Nightingale coming up, regaining some momentum coming off of her loss to Hikaru Shida on, I believe it was this past Friday's Rampage, defeated Emi Sakura. And in the main event saw FTR team with FTR of Dax Harwood and Cash Wheeler teaming with two members of La Facción Ingobernable of Rush and Preston Vance to defeat the four-man the AEW World Tag Team, current AEW World Tag Team champions of Big Bill and Ricky Starks, and the Gates of Agony of Toa Leona and Bishop Khan, who are 2/3 of the Ring of Honor World Six-Man Tag Championships. Anyways, and we do have more here. But before I do get on to the Impact Wrestling is, as of course they did have, Impact did have it again. Did show the they did have their well, it was from a week before, but basically it was broadcast over the weekend. Turning Point, which and of course, as we mentioned before, Impact starting in January will go back to being TNA wrestling, starting at Hard to Kill. So, let me see. We will that, but of course, before we do go over the results of Turning Point, there are some questions here in the chat. I'll try to get to those. What's your favorite anime character voice role done by a black voice actor or actress? Well, let's see. Well, first off, I don't know too many. I know Daniel McCrae, Jalen Castle. If I had to really pinpoint, as I said, I don't know of a whole lot. Well, but actually, Bo Billingsley, I think he's iconic as the voice of Jet Black from Cowboy Bebop. I believe he's African American. So, what's your favorite fruity basket? Don't know. I have seen the anime Fruit Basket. It's a pretty good one. I probably prefer the older one. Will you have a I have no idea what that word is. That supposed to be aqua? I don't even know what that word is. Live stream. The word. Um, what's your favorite Kingdom 2012 season? I don't know if I have a specific thing because the whole anime there is good. Kingdom as a whole is a good anime series. In fact, I think I just did a recent report where I think a new season's coming out soon for it. Anyways, so let me go over the the results from Turning Point, which of course was shown on Impact Plus this past Friday, but was recorded a week prior from the Walker Activity Dome in Newcastle upon Tyre and Ware, England, UK. In the opening match, Eric Young and Josh Alexander defeated Subculture. Giselle Shaw defeated Alex Windsor in what somebody would call an X Division match. Rich Swann defeated three-time X Division champion Trey Miguel. Jordan Grace defeated Danny Luna of Subculture fame. Joe Hendry defeated Simon Miller. Simon Miller made his TNA debut. Now, for those of you who may not know, Simon Miller, of course, is from as a YouTube personality known for his work on What Culture Wrestling. But apparently, he's also a local indie wrestler in Britain, and Joe Hendry defeated him. The most professional wrestling gods of Moose and Brian Myers defeated Frankie Kazarian and Chris Sabin, the current X Division champion. Trinity retained the Impact Knockout World title over Deonna Purrazzo with Gail Kim as special referee. Now, as it happens, since as per a pre-match stipulation here, had if Deonna Purrazzo had lost the match, in which she did, she would not get another Impact World Impact Knockout World Impact Knockout World title match. She would not get another shot at it as long as Trinity was still champion. Kind of a stipulation that kind of has come back to bite her in the butt, as she had forced Jordan Grace into that same kind of stipulation. So now that stipulation is being used against her now. And in the main event, Will Ospreay, who is again considered potentially starting out to become one of the hottest potential free agents, as his contract with New Japan is set to complete in February. He's currently the IWGP United States champion. He defeated Eddie Edwards in what many consider be a classic. Now, of course, Will Ospreay has a lot of people. He's got interest not just from the WWE, but also from AEW and Impact, aka TNA. He has come out and acknowledged that having grown up as a TNA fan, and but there's going to be a major bidding war for him in early 2024 here. So we'll just have to wait and see when all that comes out here. So with that, now we're going to go ahead and going to finish things off here. We're going to wrap things up by with today being Monday, November the 6th, 2023. Let's take a look back at this day in each history. History! All right, so first off, we're going to go all the way. We're going to head back 70 years ago today. As on this date, 70 years ago today, the 25th issue of Forbidden Worlds from ACG went on sale on this date back in 1953, 70 years ago today. I believe this was probably a sci-fi type anthology exploring the supernatural. Sold for 10 cents for 32 pages. So on this date, 70 years ago today, the 25th issue of Forbidden Worlds from ACG went on sale on this date back in 1953, 70 years ago today. Moving ahead now to 1993. On this date in 1993, the 1992 version of the Addams Family animated series, cartoon series, aired its final episode on ABC on this date 30 years ago today. On this date, 30 years ago today, HB Productions Company, which of course is known as Hanna-Barbera as well, 1992 animated series Addams Family would air its final episode on ABC on this date 30 years ago today. So with that, and also going just back 5 years ago, as on this date back in 2018, the WWE would purchase the video library of the World Wrestling Council for their own library, so they could broadcast, so they could show those on the WWE network. So 5 years ago today, WWE announces the acquisition of the World Wrestling Council video library for WWE libraries. Now, mind you, for those of you who don't know, the World Wrestling Council is the wrestling promotion based in Puerto Rico. It was originally founded by Carlos Colon, Victor Jovica, and the late, great Gorilla Monsoon. As some of you may know, Carlito recently returned to the WWE after a significant amount of time. So with that, thank everybody for being here tonight. Hope everybody enjoyed the show. Back here tomorrow with more Niche News. And don't forget, this Friday, I'll have the metal from the Vomitorium on with me, as we will be looking back to looking back to comics going on sale in December of 1939. Looking this week at the comics that went on sale from Quality Comics. We'll be looking at Smash Comics Volume 1, Number 7, and Feature Comics Volume 1, Number 29. So with that, I thank everybody for being here, and I hope to see everybody back here tomorrow. Bye!